Today we will be assembling the Zanderbuilt Concentric Selector system transmission. All of the components have been removed for the case aside from the central support tube, the 7 clutch actuators, and the solenoid pack. The reason I left the clutch actuators in is because I did not want to stand here and run 70 quarter 20 bolts in by hand, and I figured you wouldn't want to watch that either. So moving on to the components, we have the input planet gear shafts, input sun gear shafts, output planet gear shafts, output sun gear shafts, 8 5/8 bolts, 2 identical transfer flanges, the transfer shaft. We have 2 identical carrier halves, 2 different carrier halves, 7 clutch drums. These are basically identical except for the spline interface dimensions. We have 7 band clutches, which are all identical. We have the output flange, the reverse fork and slider, as well as the bolt. We have the input plate. This is where the hydraulic pump will be housed. I did not print it for simplicity. This is the output plate with the reverse servo and guide pin. To begin assembling this transmission, we'll need some tools. These are the only tools required: ratchet extension, 3 sockets, snap ring pliers, and a single Allen wrench. We will grab our input planet gear shafts. We will grab 4 5/8 bolts and a transfer flange. We will grab our transfer shaft, our input sun gear shafts, the required planet gear shaft spacers, and our 2 input carriers halves. Starting off, we will orient our timing marks to the timing marks on our input shaft, making sure that they're clocked correctly, which they are. We will then take our transfer flange and slide the planet gear shafts carefully into place. Next, we will lift this whole thing as a unit and place it into the carrier. Next, we will install the transfer shaft with the single hole facing up. We will then set this on our fancy assembly box. We'll take the input shaft, line up the timing marks, make sure everything's timed correctly, which it is. We will then install our input spacer, the first input selector sun gear shaft, the second input selector sun gear shaft, followed by 4 planet gear shaft spacers. Then we will load our top carrier half. Flip it over, remove this carrier half, set it aside. We will now install our 3rd input selector sun gear shaft. Spacer, the 4th input selector sun gear shaft and its spacer, followed by the final 4 input input planet gear shaft spacers. Then we will reinstall our carrier half. Press everything together, make sure it spins nicely, which it does. Then we will install the 4 5/8 bolts. Because this is plastic, these don't get tightened very much. Make sure that it still spins nicely, which it does. We can then flip this over, remove the transfer shaft, and we can grab 2 of our input clutch drums. Carefully install these onto the selector sun gear shafts, followed by a snap ring. Make sure it's seated, which it is. Then we can set that to the side and grab our red clutch and our purple clutch. We carefully slide these into the case. In correct orientation. Next, actually going to put this back in, make life a little easier. Slide the entire input set into the case. I'm going to remove transfer shaft again so we can assemble the output set. But first, I'm going to put the remaining 2 input clutch drums in place. Because this is a plastic model, I'm able to cheat a little bit without removing this clutch servo. If it was metal, you'd simply remove this in order to get the band over top of the push rod. But since it's plastic, I'm able to cheat a little bit. Then we can slide the final input clutch in place, followed by the final input drum, and install the final input snap ring. Make sure it's seated, which it is. We can then install our input spacer. The input side is now completed. Next, we'll move on to the output set. So we'll get our output components, the output carriers, four 5/8 bolts, another transfer flange. You'll get the output sun gear shafts, the output planet gear shafts, planet gear shaft, spacers. And now we can begin assembling. So again, transfer flange, spline, and bushing interface down. The output shaft, and make sure our timing marks are indexed correctly. Which they are. Again, slide the planet gear shafts in place carefully. Then pick the whole thing up as a unit. Carefully install it into the carrier. Take our transfer shaft with the two holes facing up this time. Slide the whole thing in our assembly stand. Then we'll take our output shaft, line up the timing marks, make sure it's timed perfectly, which it is. Our spacer is already in place. We'll take our first output selector sun gear shaft, install that, followed by our second output selector sun gear shaft, followed by 4 planet gear shaft spacers. And finally, we'll take our carrier half, flip it over, remove this carrier half temporarily as we install our third and final output selector sun gear shaft. We can now press everything together, reinstall the carrier half, make sure everything spins nicely, which it does. We can remove our transfer shaft, flip this over, and install 4 5/8 bolts. Again, this is made of plastic, so these do not get tightened during that. Make sure that it spins nicely. If it does, then we can flip this over. Install that selector drum. Then we're going to take our transfer shaft. The 2 holes are going to be facing back. We're going to install this into the transmission, followed by our orange clutch. They're all the same, I just have tape on them for the display. Slide that clutch in place. Next, take the whole output gear set. Nice and easy. Next, we'll grab our final 2 remaining output bands and drums. First, we will install the drum, followed by the green band. Again, we're able to cheat here because this is plastic. If this was metal, we would be forced to remove that clutch actuator servo. Then we'll install the final blue clutch, the final output clutch drum, and then the final snap ring. sure it's seated, which it is. Okay, so at this point, we are mostly done. I'm just going to do a quick test, make sure everything spins nice, which it still does. Now we're going to take our output plate. We have our bearing, our reverse fork slider, and our reverse actuator servo. We will now grab our final output flange, our reverse fork and slider, and we will carefully install these in place. We'll also install our final output flange. Again, because this is plastic, we will not tighten it very much. Make sure it turns nicely, which it does. And then we will carefully install our fork bolt here. This is a precision shoulder bolt. Again, it's plastic, doesn't get tightened much. We will then carefully slide this plate onto the case, just like that. We will take 3 1/4 bolts. Install the reverse pressure line. We will now move to the front of the transmission. Input spacer's already on. We can take our motor plate, slide it into position, put 4 1/4 bolts in. And we're going to slide the transmission down here on this table and install the controller. We'll hook up our power supply for the controller. Turn this around so you can see it. Then we'll take our line from our air regulator, plug that into the solenoid pack. We'll turn the air on. Add that output shaft, please. Turn the motor on, we'll run it through the gears. There's reverse. Looks really good. So for a one-shot assembly video, we're at about 22 minutes, up and running from fully torn down. You can see it's really simple. Thanks for watching.